Hello and welcome to this first lesson on instrumentation and timbre. Today we're going to look at the drum kit. We're going to identify all the different parts of the drum kit, listen to some musical examples, so we're able to describe the timbres a bit better and analyze, and hopefully, if you are a drummer yourself, or you can create your own rhythms on notation software or program them in, sequence them in, try out some different parts of the drum kit, try out some different beats. So, first of all, we have, as you can see here, a standard drum kit. When the drum kit first came into Western civilization, no one really wanted to play it because it was deemed too loud and therefore the music of the devil. But these days, you can't find a track, or at least it's very, very rare in the modern pop music industry, without a drum kit. And when it first started to get built up, it was just the kick drum, snare, and the hi-hat. Now, what are these parts of the drum kit you're talking about? I'm about to explain. First of all, the bass drum, also known as the kick drum, because the pedal that you press your foot down on is called the kick pedal, and that sends the mallet to go and beat the drum. So the bass drum or kick drum is the same thing. It's the boo, boo, boo part of the music. Then we've got the snare drum, which sounds a bit like k or k, depending on how loose the wires are on the bottom. That's right, this drum, what makes it special and gives it special sound is there are wires on the bottom which can be tightened or loosened depending on what kind of timbre you want to get from it. And the wires used to be used by poachers and hunters in order to trap rabbits in snare traps. They're called snare wires. And that's where it gets its name from, snare drum. So, then we have the hi-hat, which is two small cymbals sandwiched together, and they can either be closed, they're controlled by a pedal at the bottom of the stand, which the left foot goes on. Uh, and if they're sandwiched right together, it's a very, very quiet metallic sound like t. If they're open ever so slightly, it gives it a little bit of a sizzle like tss, hence why closed, and slightly open sometimes can sound a bit like t, tss, tss, tss. Then if they're fully open, it makes it a lot louder and is usually gradually opened sometimes, uh, especially in like punk rock music, like Green Day, you hear it quite often to lead into a different section, to raise the dynamics, to make everybody realize, right, we're going into the next section. Then we have the crash cymbal, which is usually used to accent certain beats or to mark the end of a fill, which is like a short 1 or 2 bar drum solo used to signify the end of a section and going into a new section. And it's very loud. It sounds like an actual crash, hence why it's called crash cymbal. Then we have the ride cymbal, which is much larger and has a bit of a denser timbre and is used in the same way as the hi-hat. Sometimes you may hear the verse being played with a hi-hat and the chorus being played with a ride cymbal or vice versa. And with the ride cymbal, depending on whereabouts on the ride cymbal you play, it has a very different pitch. The very center has a high pitch, the very edge has a lower pitch. Remember, pitch means how high or low the sound is. And the very middle of the ride cymbal is called the bell. It's very similar to, you can see here on the hi-hat, this bit which is slightly raised, it's called the bell. Here as well, the bell of the crash cymbal. And similarly, on the ride cymbal as well, right in the middle, it's called the bell. And that bit can be played in the ride cymbal to give it a much higher sound, which cuts through everything else. Now we're going to say hello to the toms. Hi, Tom! We've got that high tom up there, middle tom, and then the floor tom, which gets its name because it's the only one of the toms stood on the floor, but it's also known as the low tom. High, middle, and low. You guess it again, it's talking about pitch. You can tighten or loosen the skins on the top of the drums to give it a different frequency, to give it a different pitch. So that's why drummers have drum keys to tighten or loosen the skins. So they are the parts of a standard drum kit. Now we're going to check out a musical example. This guy's called Clyde Stubblefield. He was James Brown's drummer, and he's going to only play the kick drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat. So you can hear those three individual parts of the drum kit. He plays some parts of the hi-hat open, some closed, and even though he's only playing these three parts of the drum kit, you're going to see that it's very complex, the actual beat he plays.
1, 2, 3.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Now, the tom drums. For this example, we're going to listen to an isolated drum track from a System of a Down song called Chop Suey. And in this drum solo at the beginning, it pretty much feels like a solo. I know it's not completely improvised, but he plays pretty much purely the toms. But you can also hear the kick drum playing on every beat as well. Fun fact for you all, even though System of a Down is pretty much a heavy rock or perhaps metal band, the drummer was heavily influenced by jazz. His father was a jazz musician, and when he was very, very young, he'd go and watch his father play in all the jazz cafes, which is why a lot of his drum beats are actually quite complex. Please do visit YouTube, check out the wealth of videos on there of professional drummers. They have loads of videos of themselves playing, so you can see how they play the drum beats specifically that way, the way they hold their drumsticks, the kinds of drumsticks that they use. All of these factors influence the overall timbre of their drum kit. And you can even find videos of some of them which talk about how they set up their drum kit, why they do it that way. You may see certain bits of gaffer tape and tissue or sponges taped down onto certain drums to adapt and change the timbre as well. So these are all things which can influence the timbre of the drum kit. Please do check that out. Thank you very much for joining me in this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson, where we're going to go through the electric and acoustic guitar. I will see you there.